Hi guys, in this video I'll be building some more stuff inside the Zephyria RPG, and the goal for today would be to have a concept of an infinite world. So currently this is a single map, but I want to be able to create portals like teleports to other maps, which means if we can create a chain of these portals, then we'll have pretty much an infinite world. You can build as many maps as you need and add appropriate portals. And so far, the only thing I've done was pick a sprite for the portal, which is right there, and that is it. So first of all, I need to make it clickable. So I took a copy of this world, a copy of this map rather, create another one, and put a another portal teleport thing here. I want to be able to go into this portal and end up here, which is a different map. But first of all, I need to make this somehow walkable. Walkable areas are created above the interactive ones, so I don't know why I can't click on the things. Because a star parses it based on what type of objects there are. Okay, that would make sense. Where's my parsing going on? I need to clean up a lot of this stuff, but before I can do that, I need to make sure stuff is actually working. So let's focus on making it work first. Equals or type equals entity type portal. Yeah, let's go with that. To disable UI, because that's not helpful. Right, so I've got this thing, which now I can walk over, which is great. Right, what kind of data do I need? So I need this thing inside this thing to store some stuff. Interactive, can I select it? Let's add a property. So this should have the name of the map it teleports to, which is test map 2, not tmx. Then it should have the coordinates to which it teleports to. Yeah, I need to know where it's teleporting me to, and based on that I can get some map coordinates. It's cell X. Actually, that's ambiguous because for example, cell X could be this portal's cell X, so I don't want that. Let's call it 2 cell X. To cell Y, and cells are measured in units, in whole numbers, not in pixels. So int is fine here. So I should want to go to here somewhere. That's cell 14282. Yeah, 14182. 14182. So in the end, I don't think it's going to be here. The portal, I'm going to move it right there. So it goes like to the left and it comes out from the right side. In fact, I might even have similar coordinates. So it creates this almost like seamless movement from one map to another. Right, I need some kind of a component. Portal components. So the portal is actually here. And that's the entity for it, which means I can just add with new portal component. I wonder if I actually need the bounding box for it. Oh yeah, yes I do, because A star map processing will be done based on that. Right, in which case, so how we want to check for collision, but then this is cell-based map, so I can kind of check if the player is inside that cell, maybe. Well, first let's get some data outside from the map. So to cell X, to cell Y. What was the other one? Map name. So these need to be parsed in here somewhere. Cell X. Actually, I can just do it in line, I guess. Data get map name. Data get to cell X. And data get to cell Y. And the compiler will just infer the types, which is great. I don't need to cast it to anything. So I'll come here. Then I want something like if collided load map. And then I set the map name. And then I provide these values to move the player to that new map. It feels like load map should be here somewhere in the actual app. Load map, go to map. Map name to cell Y. How do we load the map? Okay, it's all of this stuff. I should be able to refactor it. Right, okay. Let's add a removable component first, because I don't want to remove the player or the cell selection thing. Everything else I think I can remove, because, well, monsters are going to be respawned, so I'm not worried about them. Yeah, let's take that out, put it here. This is the map name that I'm using, and that is the map name that I'm going to use. Parse the grid, parse these decor type objects, spawn the monsters, no longer need that comment, and position the player accordingly. So I assume player already exists by this point, so I can just do get component. Let's add a convenience method. Nope. Where's my character entity? Let's add another convenience method. Set position to cell X and cell Y, which just calls one of these, but I can't remember which one. Is it get component, cell move component, set position to cell? Yeah, that's what I need. There we go. That way the call site gets much more interesting. I need to ensure the player actually exists by this point. And this is the map that I need to spawn the player in. Let's go all the way here. Where are we spawning the thing? 1, 6, 2, 6. 2, 6 will do. It's kind of a test map thing. Now the player needs to be first. I no longer need to set the position because that's done automatically. I no longer need that actually. Okay, that's great. That just goes. Both of these things go. So create the player, and then do this. How about that? I could use level map here, map width from the actual level object, but then They're hard-coded at 150. That's fine. Okay, this thing now exists, so I can call go to map. That's actually done. If collided, so how am I going to handle the collision? I could check the cell values. Well, that thing occupies multiple cells, so I would need to check if the player's coordinate is in one of these. Collision detection is much easier to do than just cell detection in terms of code, because I already have the code. Okay, let's start with that. So get game world, get singleton, because there's just one player. Is colliding this, well, entity. In terms of code, that is indeed simpler. Is it going to work? I don't know. Well, that checks using bounding boxes. My portal object does have a bounding box. What about the player? The player also has a bounding box. Let's try that. Okay, so my map loading function seems to work. Now let's touch that thing. But can I call new portal? I think I know why, because yeah, I need to fix collision reporting. That's been a long-standing issue. The thing that I'm referring to is that it gives me the outer exception while I want the actual root exception. I think I know what it is, because I set these values here. I don't think it set the values for this thing. Yeah. So I can copy this, get rid of that one. Now this thing actually has some values in it, which should ideally teleport back for testing purposes. So it would teleport back to the first map to 6. And these were the values that I start with. Yep. iterator cannot be used nested. Here, there's some. I think it's a concurrency issue. Because that's happening inside the update, which in turn creates and then resets the whole thing. So I would guess this is a concurrency issue. We're iterating over list or some kind of container, doing something with the elements, and then inside the update of each element we're doing something with the container, and that gives you the concurrency issue, even though you're running on the same thread. Right. Usually these things can be solved by delaying the call to the container modification. So if I can say something like I can delay it with a timer, and I can delay it by delegating oh, I've got the idea. Why don't we just switch scenes? Should be able to do that. Get game controller, go to loading. That should switch the scene to the loading scene, where you can see initializing game kind of stuff. And then I do that in the background. That's the thing I don't like about Kotlin sources, because they're never there. Possibly because I have a separate Kotlin source directory. I think if you put Kotlin classes inside the Java directory, then it picks them up. I'll have to go to actual sources, FXGL. FXGL. Just that. Go to loading, which is that. Yeah, that seems alright. Let's try this. So this actually spawns a new scene. No, it doesn't spawn a new scene. It sets the scene and then whoa. That's pretty cool. So something hasn't worked. The other thing is that I'm still moving, presumably because it still keeps track of hey, stop. Keeps track of the cell it should go to, which is right there at the start of level 1. And now it's going somewhere, I have no idea. But the map switching worked, which is a significant improvement. So we went to loading screen, which is actually a very sensible thing to do here, because map loading can be tricky, and I'm only using like a quarter of a map that doesn't even have any other interactive objects on there. So that will take a while to load, which means this is a very good thing to do. We're going to loading screen first, and then do this in the background. What I do need to fix is how the player is handled. So init enemies, I no longer need that, right? Player set position. So this is where I kind of should be resetting my player. So first of all, let's make sure that our player is going to be idle. That means none of the movement or any kind of action is going to be performed, which is good. The other thing is I need to reset the movement component. Because this is the thing that keeps track of where it's going. So player get action component order idle. That means don't do anything. Set position to here, and then make the player move to that position. But since he's already there, he's not going to move. And the movement thing should reset. Shall we add another convenience method? I'm calling these new components because these are actually modified versions of built-in FXGL components that I needed more functionality for. So these will actually get merged back to the FXGL repo. Move to cell X, cell Y. That should, I think, reset everything with respect to actions, movement, and so on. The other thing I noticed is that the bounding box is pretty big. So I need to, I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I don't want this thing. Because the bounding box is actually, if you can see, it's bigger than the object itself. And I do need the bounding box to be as big as it is because it needs to fit the tile, the cell size, which is 32 by 32, and this occupies 4 cells. In terms of width, and height is 3 cells. In turn, that is needed for a start to work properly. So I can either add another hitbox, which is smaller in size, and test for that. Anyway, that's something for me to fix later on. I'll just add a note here, because that's not stopping me from further development. Fix size equation. Alright, so I can go into that thing and come out at the other side. The guy's still moving though, so I don't know why that is. This works correctly. Which will position this thing as needed, and then that should just give an empty path. I wonder if I should be calling this or remove. And that's action components. That's one thing. Also, I seem to have lost the cell. Okay, cell selection is probably, it's just the Z index. That's not high enough. That's my config. Cell selection, let's move it to that. And I need to make sure that there are some walkable areas here, so I can see that the cell selection thing works properly. And then I'll need to fix the movement, or stop it from right. So I go here. Okay, my cell selection is back, which is good. Doesn't seem to be moving this guy anywhere. It's also moving in a very weird fashion, because he's moving diagonally. A star component wouldn't allow it to. Well, at least I can move normally now. So all I need to figure out is how to remove the order that I issued to move to that thing, because it's just before I hit the portal, it goes to that cell. That is what I don't quite get, because that should have stopped movement completely. Order move. Reset the order, the movement, the point to where the entity is going. Using this, we should have moved to the cell. And if not moving, then we would have calculated this. If we are moving, then we would have done a delayed calculation when we stopped moving. I assume we are moving, so it's that branch that gets called. Let's see when this is called. So I go in, and it never called the new path, so that explains it a little bit. When I call this, it actually never triggers this because it never stops moving. I think it's time to add a new function to a move component, because people would want to stop their character from just moving, and that's it really. So a very similar use case to what I currently have. Move to cell. How about, I want to break the coherence of that, so I'll just add a method here. Stop moving, stop movement, stop movement, and then I provide cell X, cell Y. It's a bit tricky modifying these components, because these components are going to be merged back with the FXGL's code, so I have to be as general as possible here without any specific references to the game code. So, well, one of the first things is path clear, and then the move to cell is not needed. Movement component set position to cell. Yeah, how about that? Does this reset everything? So it positions the entity it seems like I should ideally make it stop moving, right? And then all these should become false too. I think I have a test back in the FXGL repo, so it'll be easier to test for any undefined behavior there, but for now, logically this seems right. If I'm setting the position of an entity to a specific cell, then I'm not making it move, I'm just putting it there. And so the movement should stop. And if I'm moving it to a cell, then movement begins. And then these are recalculated as needed in here. Set position. Is there anywhere else I'm setting it? No. Good. Everything calls back to this function. Right. Where were we? That would order the move. That would call move. That would call this thing, which would call this thing. And this is not what I'm doing anymore. I'm calling this. Stop movement at. Let's go with that. So that's clearer that I'm positioning something in there and then I'm stopping the movement. And then I'm clearing the path, I think, which is what keeps the entity moving. Because if that is empty, then we just don't move. And then that should never trigger because I'm not going to call it. So this gets slightly different now. I'm not going to move to that cell anymore. I'm going to set the position. I'm going to set it via my A star component. Stop position, stop movement at. Because every time I set the position to cell, I want to stop movement. Is that true? Yes, because then I can order new movement. And then everything will get back to the normal cycle of things. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, that's much better. I can't move now, but at least it has stopped moving. I can still use my selection thing in the area that I created. Yeah, that's fine. Now I need to figure out why it doesn't move. It's almost like a vicious circle. So I'm pretty sure this is a lockable thing. So the grid's been reset. Oh, is it because it's still referring to an old grid. That could be the problem. Actually, that could be the problem with my previous logic too. The logic was correct. It was the implementation of the logic was wrong. Because this is where I'm resetting the grid, which means that I cannot use a static reference, not a static reference, but I can't just reset it. I can't set it once and then use it. I have to keep calling this so that I know I'm using the latest grid. Alright, let's figure out where I'm calling this. Luckily, it only seems to be in 2 places. That is correct because it's accessing the grid via the app. That is not correct because it's using this to call it once at the start of monster creation. So for all monsters, it's actually fine because these are monsters that are recreated with that one. This one should probably move now. So for every single monster, it's fine. It's only not fine for the player because the player is an entity that cannot be removed, as we set this thing here, which means I need to somehow take this component and update its grid reference. Which I cannot do because it's fixed at runtime, which means I will need to create a new component. Seems easy enough. So what I'm going to do is player remove a star component and add a new one. New a star component. When it gets back to the FXGL repo, the new bit will just disappear. So it will become a star move component. New grid. Is that how it works? Yeah. So far so good. Actually, no, even before I run this thing, I know it's not going to work because the reference to a star movement component is fixed in some cases. Like here. Because that's going to be injected at the very first call when I create the component. It's still going to refer to the previous. The grid is now new, but it's going to refer to the previous component. Okay, how do we fix that? I could, of course, just recreate the whole player entity. But then for that, I need a correctly functioning serialization mechanism because I need to keep information about attributes, stats, and so on. Actually, let's see how many places this is used. So random, that's for AI stuff, so I don't need to update that. This is the bit that I need to update. That's all fine. That's still the same code. The component, that's still fine. Because it's accessing it dynamically rather than having just reference. And that is also fine. So essentially, all I need is for this to be a property which delegates to another one. A star, this, that its getter is going to call entity get component new a star move component, and everything else should just magically work. Move here, get to this map, and move in this map. Something weird going on with animation. I don't know why. I should actually be able to go back. Why can't I go here? Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't have this as far. So let's move it. That. Exit. What? By finding great get. Random. That's interesting. Oh, it's probably the rounding error, because anchored position is at the feet of each character. So if the character ends up here somewhere and this value returns 150, which is the entire width and height of the map, then this can go wrong, which it did. So I'll need to have, so it's not the player that crashed it, it was one of the monsters. Check logic for identifying. Actually, the problem is here. Identifying where a character is. Yep, that's for later. And now I need to still test it. Test the portals. Right, go in, come out, move around, go back in. Yeah, it's this thing that's crashing it. Just move it here for now, and then figure out. So the animation thing issue occurs only after I've moved from one portal to another. But if I restart the game, in the very first level, there are no problems with the animation, I don't think. Are there any problems with the animation? Actually, yeah, there are. That's odd, because no. Yeah, there seems to be a weird thing with animation. I'll figure out later. Just need to add a note here somewhere. Check animation bug. Right, so do portals actually work? Is the question. Move around, go back in. And once the side of the portal is fixed, I think this could turn into an infinite world building, which is great. Yeah, that seems to work. And a bunch of more things to fix. But on that note, I'll see if I can add any more stuff sometime in the future. But for now, thanks for watching.